Hi, I lost you.
No. Yes, we lost you.
My issue was one very simple thing. The, the externalization of enforcement of morals is what is failing us as a country, as a society.
Right.
You cannot legislate on morals. You cannot have someone forcing you to behave well. If you can't behave well, you are ostracized. There's nothing we can do with you. And that is what we should be doing with all these politicians as of now.
Rono,
Unfortunately, we don't have that luxury.
do you have a favorite candidate in Kibra?
The only one who came to studio and he talked sense. What was his name?
Eliud
Owalo.
Owalo of ANC.
I thought he sounded reasonable, logical, and solid enough. You know, he was a man who could take pressure from the ladies in the studio. That one alone was a mark of my maturity.
Of maturity.
But my point here is that Kibra is giving us an opportunity to appreciate the lies that we are being told by the political class.
Okay.
Appreciate the lies.
Yes, the
Understand the
BBI issue
lies
that
now.
it will bring peace. You know, if you cannot contain a simple by-election within that BBI context, then will you manage it come the general election?
General election
Definitely no.
or referendum.
That is one.
So Rono,
Two,
yes.
it's telling us we need to look at how we appropriate authority within society. We have given politics too much leeway. We have other leaders in other sectors who have more solid effect on society than just talk.
That's a very interesting point you make there. What other avenues can we appropriate leadership, if not through politics, given we're a democracy?
The industry leaders, you know, the various
church, perhaps.
let us. No. The church, the church is a goner.
All right. Okay. We've given up on the church. Okay. So industry leaders, perhaps community leaders, teachers, and so on.
Let us look at how business has managed to sort itself out in these challenging and trying environments. And we see something worth going for. Look at what Safaricom has done all along. Look at what the late Bob Collymore would address in his public engagements. If we would shop along those lines, then as much as it's a tough call, it's worth a try. We've been failing all along with our democracy mantra. It has not worked.
What if perhaps we just hire a company to run the country then?
That would be great.
And they take a commission in terms of the GDP, the economic growth. They take a commission. So a management consultancy firm that runs. You think Kenyans will be happy?
You educate the public. You sensitize the public. You influence the public. Look at what Kipchoge managed to do the other day. I mean, everybody was so excited about him running in under 2 hours. What is the big deal about running under 2 hours?
Wow. Okay.
Someone took a deliberate action to make sure that everybody was excited about it, and he achieved something.
Rono, asante sana for your call.
Civic education.
Good morning to you all.
Good morning. Thank you, Rono.
0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. So, Jerry, you're saying, and which is actually making a lot of sense, and I think all of us here have agreed with what you're saying this morning. By yesterday's court ruling, IBC to release the voters register for Kibra, and IBC saying it needed more time. Then if it needed more time, we should have postponed today's election and said, we have taken time, let's postpone the election. But my other question was, and is, if we allow this kind of injunctions to come in, so somebody goes to court and get an election date postponed, or because they have come up with the issues to be addressed in court, are we likely to ever have an election.
Remember, this is the IEBC's doing. They're the ones who said they need more time. So it's their reaction to the court order. And the IEBC are the ones who decide when the elections are going to be. So they're, sort of cutting their own nose to spite their face. That's what's happening here, or shooting themselves in the foot. One way or another, this is the IEBC's doing. So there will be other sort of contentions about the process. And what I'm saying is, unless it's a court order and unless the IEBC is involved, we need to keep the elections going, because it would be too disruptive. There's so many factions, 24 contestants, so many people could come in with different issues. But this is so clear. The IEBC themselves have said, we need more time.
Let's flip the coin. Do you think then, with the IEBC saying we needed more time and all, then the political parties should have said, in that case, we are not going to participate in tomorrow's election? We withdraw our candidature. We are not going to participate. We're going to tell our supporters, don't turn up tomorrow. All of us. Because
it's
you're
still
saying,
an election, whether you turn up or not.
Because you're saying...
It's still an election, and we've seen evidence of that, I think, on the 26th of October last year, where some people didn't turn out, and you can't boycott an election. That in itself is a vote. An election is an election, whether or not you turn out. Some people didn't go to vote or aren't going to vote in Kibra. It doesn't mean there's no election. The election stands as the IEBC has stated. So if parties decide to boycott it, and we've seen an example of this, as I said, it's still an election, and the votes will still be counted, even if it's one vote.
What are you likely to see out of this tomorrow?
Well, I mean, it's clear that if you have already what we're seeing indications of the fact that tomorrow people are going to be complaining about what is going on. And what is going on right now, in the sense that even as of last night, they didn't have the information that they wanted. So if something goes wrong today, and whatever result comes out tomorrow, people are going to contest the result of this election, and it's going to go back into court, and we're going to have a long-winded process then to now either say we're going to go back and re-elect, or we are going to nullify any of the results that came out. So it's clear and it's evident that we're going to have more problems, and it's going to be pointed to the fact that we raised the alarm even before people went to the ballot, and we could have avoided this. And I dare say even further, a lot of the things that we saw happening even with previous elections, whether it was at the general stage or on the county, whatever level, could have been avoided if we got it right in the beginning.
So why is it that then IEBC does not get it right?
Well, but why are we pointing our fingers at IEBC? Why aren't we pointing our fingers at Parliament, which, if we were to go by the law, should actually even not be in existence right now? It should have been dissolved. So this is now the consequences of impunity. You have a parliament that is supposed to do certain things, they don't do it, they disregard the law. There was a ruling on it, they disregarded it.
Right.
So IEBC are also playing their part. They're disregarding whatever they're being told.
So you have a literally pot kettle situation where
what
people are
end?
pointing fingers at each other. But then how are we going to see this? To what conclusion?
You see, the
IEBC is not coming out as neutral in this instance.
No, they're not.
This is
and
the
if that's
problem.
clear to everybody.
They are also not coming out clearly on which side they are. Let's hear from
Well, if
Nelson.
they're not for
Nelson
ODM.
in Siokimau. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, I wanted to bring in 2 points that I think Jerry is missing in our argument about postponing the election.
Mm-hmm.
One, the law is very clear that the election has to be held within 90 days of the seat being held, declared
Right,
vacant.
yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
The seat was declared vacant on the 14th of August,
Mm-hmm.
bringing a 90-day window, I think, for Monday or Tuesday.
Okay.
So the election cannot be postponed beyond Monday or Tuesday.
It can't be postponed indefinitely, but there's some time. We've got, 5 days between now and Monday? It's for the IEBC to release this information, it's just a click of a button. They've said they needed more time. Why not postpone it to Monday?
Fine. But then now the other argument is about the examination of the voter register.
Mm-hmm.
I am personally as a voter, I'm not a Kibra voter, but personally as a voter, I'd be against someone getting a list of my names and ID number. Yeah? We've seen incidences of cybercrime because you don't know what will happen to that list after the election is done.
Yeah.
We don't know
You
exactly
don't
how they were
have
going
control.
to... We don't know exactly how they were going to verify their details. Maybe ODM would have encouraged their supporters to go and check themselves. Are we together? We don't know exactly. They didn't say, but they also didn't say they were going to look through the list themselves.
That's what they were asking for.
Like City said earlier about the process about examining the voter register, get the voters, go verify their details. Because based on the arguments I had ODM raising, was that they were saying that there are people who've been injected into the register.
How are you going to verify that by getting a list of numbers, names and ID numbers?
Because there's been people who've been removed. So because the voter numbers had to stay the same in that constituency, what happened is people have been injected, but people have been removed so as to keep the numbers the same. So they wanted to check that they haven't been removed, i.e. the ODM supporters, and this would have verified or would have actually confirmed what their claims are. So people have been injected, but people have been removed so as to keep the figures constant with what the number of voters in that constituency is.
Let them ask for just ID numbers of people voting. Keep that, not the numbers and the names.
Not a full detail.
Not
Well,
the full details.
I'm sure they
Because
would. Instead, they were just
other-
being given names. They weren't being given ID numbers. They need to correlate the information. Why is the IEBC being so dodgy? If the courts have decided this, they've looked into it in more detail. Why is the IEBC refusing to follow court orders?
Yes, Mr. Nelson.
Yeah, coming from a cyber security standpoint, I'd be very hesitant, to give someone my client's details with full names and ID, because I don't know what they're going to do with that information, regardless of who it is. They're not ODM, Jubilee are not government bodies.
They're
If they
political
want
parties.
to verify. If they want to verify the details of the voters, let them call the voters and ask the voters to go verify, mobilize their voters for their voters to go verify their details. Then in the case where voters come out and say my name was not on the register, then they have a case in point. But they should not ask for the whole register.
That's
Not the detail. Thank you very much, Nelson.
That was the initial sentiments of the IEBC, of course, but the courts overruled that. So the IEBC must follow the courts. That's the law.
Okay. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. 0719-012-600. Also post your comments on Twitter via the hashtag The Situation Room. Good morning. It's 9 o'clock.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
Wow, what has been happening on Mombasa Road today is epic in traffic proportions. 2 hours on the road today. Everybody is late. It is absolutely a parking lot and it's not giving up. Even taking off and using the bypass, the southern bypass, is not making any difference whatsoever. We don't know what is causing this traffic today, but something definitely needs to be done about that. So please be patient if you're on that road. We know that there's traffic outbound to the city. All right, Limuru Road also is gridlocked as well for some reason. Well, in this case, it's because there's a bus up ahead. So if you're on Limuru Road trying to get out, there's a bus up ahead that has some mechanical issues and they're trying to sort that out and move them out of the way. Kiambu Road from Ridgeways to Muthaiga is at a snail's pace, not moving. So we have big problems on Mombasa Road, Kiambu Road. We also want to know what's happening around the country in terms of traffic. Let us know wherever you are and we can see how to make it easier for people to get around. It is 9 o'clock on the dot. Let's see what happens in about an hour with our traffic. 0719-012-600 is the number to call. Let us know what's going on and we'll keep you moving.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have Jerry Thorne, lawyer, political strategist, an insider in the corridors of power, ready to take on any side of the debate with her signature eloquence and grit. C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start
The
your day.
by-election have been pushed from today to a certain day. 0719-012-600. Good morning, Alan.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I just wanted to congratulate you guys for one thing, introducing intellectual honesty in political discussion. The problem we have with the media is everybody rushes to the center. They want to take sanctuary in the center, that this, I want to be both sides. The truth of the matter is, just like you have said, these elections should not go on. Yeah? And the truth of the matter is, there's nothing special about numbers at their secret or something. Today, telephone companies have databases of everybody.
Right.
Even this Tala, whatever business, have databases. So keep it up. The IBC, if somebody's wrong, call them out. It's IBC on the chopping board this time round. Cheers.
Chop it. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Alan.
If it's
Jerry,
on the
you
chopping
voted in
board,
2017, right?
I did.
In Nairobi, I presume.
I did.
Now, would you be able to prove that you actually voted in whatever polling station you did? If today we asked you to prove
Would I be able? Well, I've got a photograph of me casting my ballot. So
that's all you
yes.
have, right?
I'm
not
sure.
everybody has that.
No, but I'm
That's
sure.
why I'm leading with this.
Okay,
Walk
go
with me.
ahead.
So, if we said that today, let's open up that ballot, the voter register for your polling center, and you went there and you said, "Well, my name is not here." How would we be able to actually tell that you are genuinely not there?
How do you
That
mean
you-
if my
that-
name is not there? It's
Yeah.
not there.
How
Not on the
can we
register,
prove
isn't
that
it?
you should be there?
Because I would have registered previously.
Yes. Do we have? How can we prove that you actually are a registered voter in that polling center?
See, well, if you check it yourself, I mean, you simply go and verify.
Very
And that's what I'm saying. So we are saying,
I can
if,
say-
if I'm going with this angle of 15 names that were supposed to have been in the register the last time,
15,000.
15,000 have been removed. So Njeri is one of those 15,000 in this particular polling center. She goes there and she says, "My name is not here." How do we actually tell that Njeri is genuinely has generally been deleted from this register today?
That I was there in the first instance.
Yes.
You mean that's a good one actually. I'm trying to see if there's a safety net for that. If I think of the process I went through to register, and I think didn't we have a card or there was some evidence that I
Piece of paper,
retained
a
a
slip.
piece of paper, absolutely, that I retained to show that I did register there. So it's not just my photograph, but I retained something, a piece of paper saying that I've registered to vote there.
A piece of paper. It was handwritten. It was not type. It wasn't anything. You actually went to register
so you're
somewhere.
saying the piece of
It
paper
was a
can
piece of
actually
paper
be
that was written.
duplicated. And
Yes. And the last time when you're doing your voter verification, you either sent an SMS or you went physically to a polling center and you checked. You sent an SMS. So if your name has
You were
now been
also,
removed.
No. You were also sent an SMS. Actually,
Yes.
there was
Yes.
there was
You-
layers to
it
this.
was a
It wasn't
query.
that simple.
It was a query.
You were also sent an SMS to be told you were
So
registered at a certain
queried
polling
the
station.
database. You queried the database, and the database gave you a response and said, "Yes, you are registered in this particular polling center." So if today you send the same query and you find you've been registered in Siokimau, for
Instead.
instance, instead,
How can I prove that I was
How can you
actually
prove?
registered
So you
elsewhere?
keep your message from the
Yes.
first time that you got it. I mean,
Yes.
it's not something that you should keep as proof of the fact that you went through the process. You keep the first one in
Which
terms
one?
of records.
the SMS.
Well, why not?
I
If that's going
think-
to be used as a
okay.
form of proof.
Also,
But
if you
why
have
bother with all
15,000
that?
people,
Why bother with all that when all you need to do is simply go and verify it yourself? I mean,
no, but Eric's got a point here. What
Because
he's
if it's
saying
been
is,
deleted, how do you prove it's been deleted?
how do you prove, that you did actually register there in the first instance? So I'm saying there would have been layers to that, in that there would have been something that they give you when you register, maybe a piece of paper or a card. Was there no card?
No, there was no
I
voter's
remember
card
receiving.
anymore.
I had a voter's card. I'm sure
Nope,
I did.
Nope. That was in the
no,
previous.
that stopped.
That stopped.
All
in
you
the,
require is
in the
your ID.
biometric
Your
was just
ID
your
and
ID
your fingerprints.
and your fingerprint, and it
Right.
went into the register. And then they opened up the register and said you can send an SMS or you can go to the political polling center and verify. Now, if you've been removed from this particular constituency and your name has been taken to another constituency, and we've opened up the
How
register
can
for
you
this
prove
by-election
that
in
you were
Kibra.
previously in
Yes.
that
How
constituency?
can we prove that this
I think just the
15,000
sheer
people have actually
number,
been removed?
the sheer numbers, it's not coincidental. If 15,000 people are saying they've been removed, I think maybe we need to look into it.
There you go. So the people who are advancing the narrative that 15,000 have been removed
Could
can
be
actually
the-
produce 15,000 people who say we have been removed.
Absolutely. There's scope for all manner of things to go on. And that's why the IEBC actually needs to take time and ensure they follow court orders and they follow the systems and mechanisms in place to try and avert such situations.
Eric,
but
what
they're
you're
not doing that.
discussing is the consequences of having earned mistrust.
Exactly. And then you're taking away
Yes.
from the responsibility and duty of the IEBC to do this particular job.
What he's
What I-
discussing is evidence. Is there evidence of
responsibility.
What
the
I am
And
accusations?
it's
What
also
I'm
their
discussing is
responsibility to put
politicians-
doubt, to remove any kind of doubt that the citizenry would have on them.
Eric,
What I am
And they're
discussing
creating
is the
doubt by the
possibility
recent
of
actions that we are
politicians
seeing.
actually
Yes.
playing
They're
dirty
creating
games.
doubt.
Yes.
Because
They're
we've allowed
creating doubt.
politicians to keep talking about IBC and throwing this
Yes.
mud at IBC.
But then they
we
don't
allow
help.
it to stick.
Yeah,
They-
but they
this
don't
is
help
the
the
consequence of what we're
situation in
gonna have.
any way. They don't help by remove that doubt with the recent actions that they've seen that they're operating in. They're not helping the situation in any way. If we're saying that it's politicians who have thrown the doubt, or the politicians who have helped them to remain in the position of doubt, if they want to then remove themselves from that, they're not helping. They're not helping in any way.
And given the consequences of the magnitude of the outcome of this on a national level, I think the IBC really should have taken its time in ensuring that these elections are felt to be free and fair by the participants.
I have Killen who's calling in from Kisumu. Good morning.
Good morning, Du. Good morning, the rest of the group.
Hey,
The rest of the
Good
group.
morning, Killen.
Killen,
All
good
right.
morning.
Good morning, Killen.
I got a friend called Undu. So
Yes.
yeah. So now, guys, I think the most important thing here is that if the judicial system, the highest office of the judiciary, can give an order for the IEBC to produce the server, and IEBC fails to do that. Prior to that, one of the presidential aspirants did not have his name in the registry in the same constituency. Are we talking?
Yes,
Those
we-
were
now
allegations.
We are listening. Yes.
Yes.
Now, listen to me. Slowly as we are coming down, then we realize that IBC has a way of playing this game, you know. And by the way, when you realize an election being disputed that is conducted by an institution that is supposed to be giving the right direction, and everybody's raising doubt, like, for example, it has been in my observation when the ODM went to discuss with the IEBC chairman, and they had a lengthy talk about this, and all they were talking about was the registration. Today, we are getting back again to realize that when the court is giving the same order as late as they expect it to be, I think there is no haste or any rush or any deadline for Kibera election. The Kibera election should be done free and fair so that everybody else is satisfied. This idea of saying IBC doesn't got records, and we see NTSA, anybody in Garissa will be stopped by a police and just his
The
ID
records
number.
are pulled up immediately. Yes.
So, you know, what we're talking about here is somebody's playing a Superboy here. The Superboy here in this case is the IABC.
Yeah.
IABC should not be questioned whether they do go wrong or right. But that notwithstanding, I agree with everything else here that you're discussing. The only thing that I doubt is the openness of IABC.
Thank you.
Unless anything different from that. But I think from here, I've developed an eye that IBC must be playing for somebody or playing within some new rules. They of course change the goalpost. It's not the by-elections that you know. Because, for instance, when you look at how we used to verify our registration numbers, yeah. IBC went that they have gone electronic, and this is the reason why the previous time, the previous election, the most previous election, there were no cards issued.
Yep.
You know, but in about a month to that, there was verification process that everybody else who was voting within that certain area were allowed to go to their centers and verify if you're registered, and there was an officer on the ground. In this case, I think Kibera is a micro spot where they should have availed everything because it's just adjacent to the headquarters. I think already they would have let the Kibera residents be in a position of doing this by themselves.
Okay.
But this has been going on for a while, and nobody's coming in to question this.
Thank you very much, Killen.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Keelan.
Well, he raises some solid points as well, yes.
He agrees with us for a change.
He always does agree with us. And then he also adds a couple of other, angles to the conversation that we're having. So we're saying that should the IBC have pushed today's election? So yes, as Nelson from Syokimau called and said, well, there's a deadline, a legal deadline by Tuesday.
That's enough time for
during
them
which
to do,
90 days should have concluded.
to do what the court has ordered them to do. As you know, we say this is a click of a button we're talking about. The fact that they need more time, it's not going to be more than a day, 2 days, 3 days. So they should have given that extra time.
Let me also bring in the other angle as well. So we have somebody who's crying victim again this time, and this is ODM crying victim again. With this, over the same IEBC.
It's quite scary for me who's supporting ODM
over the same IEBC.
But is it indicative of the fact that they think they're going to lose? Which is what happens usually. They prime the ground, absolutely. So my fear is, of course, Kibra is quite volatile, and you don't want these types of divisions. We've seen tribal divisions previously in Kibra and clashes here and there, but we now have further divisions. Of course, elections are naturally divisive, as you know, as an instrument for democracy, but given the dynamics in Kibra, it could be very volatile, and that's my issue. And I think IEBC should have taken this into account and ensured that as people were going in, they felt that the elections were going to be a free and fair process.
Please remember that the IEBC contended that they did give ODM a voters register. The only thing they left out were the personal identification details.
Yes. Just give the name.
Just so that we understand.
So we are clear.
Yes. That's futile. That's of no consequence.
They give them the names. They told them these are the names of the people in the register.
Yes.
And if those people come, how is the voting being conducted here? The voting is being conducted via biometric registration. So you go in and you biometrically register, confirm yourself.
Again, these are the consequences of having worked very, very studiously at being mistrusted. And so even when what you are doing does not require this amount of negative scrutiny, that's the direction people will go.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, what this does is that for future exercises such as this, you compound that mistrust. And then people believe, okay, this as a body is never going to be able to serve our purposes when it comes to elections and voting. It is not going to happen. And unless you're able to now present yourself as squeaky clean by doing things like presenting something as simple as a register, then you're not going to be able to remove the element of mistrust from people. Unfortunately,
the register has been
and here
presented. The register had
and
been
here
open
what
for
you
voters
do,
of Kibra to go and check
and what was
names.
In the register. Their names.
No, the register given to the political party was just the names. The register had been opened. Now, how did we know that Mariga is not a registered voter in Kibra? It's because the voters in Kibra went and checked the register. The register had been there.
Yes, and the information within the register was not complete.
Lydia, good morning.
Good morning to Spice FM. Thank you for educating us and keeping our brains working. Now, Mariga, he admitted that he did not register, but he's still allowed to stand as being a boss. See, this is law. Now, you keep on saying volatile, volatile, volatile. There's 9 o'clock news on KBC English said everything is going on peacefully, but people are few. But don't keep saying volatile when there is no volatile.
You realize volatile is a propensity for something to happen. Of course, it started off smoothly. But what I'm saying is if people feel shortchanged and they feel that the elections weren't free and fair, anything can happen.
If I was shortchanged, I went there. Suppose I'm not a Kibra voter. And if something went wrong with my voting, I would speak to the media so that I won't give the media my ID number, but I'll just tell them what happened. Simple as that. Get the media to know details without giving the ID number that, they didn't find and whatever.
Sure.
But saying volatile when it is not volatile, you're scaring many people from going to vote.
Okay, you've got a very good point there.
Thank you, Lydia.
Thank you.
A very good point there, and perhaps I was being somewhat alarmist. I think what I intend to do is highlight the importance of ensuring that the people of Kibra feel that this election is free and fair and put that pressure on the IEBC. That was my intention. So I do apologize, and I think Lydia has got a good point there that maybe I was being somewhat alarmist by saying volatile.
I actually don't think you're being alarmist. You're being factual because if there's one thing that we have consistently seen in this country, the temperatures that are raised by the electoral process. And it requires the smallest thing to set a spark off.
And people will pick on that smallest thing, however small it is, will pick on. And you'll find that, after all, the IEBC did not present this to us, and we'll pick on that small thing and take
And
it to
build on
level
it.
and build on it and build on it and build on it and take it to levels for which we've seen serious things happen in
And
this
yet,
country.
it can be avoided.
And that's
But
what I'm saying. It can be avoided.
And Lydia makes a good point, because if everything is it's calm, it's gotten off to a good smooth start, the exercise that is, then perhaps I could be scaring people away by talking about the volatility.
Jerry, our elections are some of the most peaceful you can find on this planet. We elect peacefully.
People even
It's
bring
the results.
People bring breakfast,
Thereafter.
lunch, and dinner for
It's
their
the-
fellow votees
People
on the line.
chat, discuss
Yes, talk
differences
about
in
things.
politics.
Right.
People bring picnic baskets and sit
Yes.
down and vote
It's the
together.
results.
They even talk about the differences when they're queuing. I've
Exactly.
seen it myself and participated in
It
those
happens.
discussions.
It's a
at
very
4 in the morning.
uncomfortable subject to discuss, the volatility and the nature and dynamics of Kibra. But if it is the truth on the ground, then I
must
think
be
it's important
discussed.
that we discuss it.
You see,
Calling in from Sondu is Paul. Paul, good morning.
Good morning, Chief.
Good
Welcome
morning.
to the
Good
Situation
morning.
Room. You also want to weigh in on this, what we're discussing, Kibra by-election.
Yes, I want to say that Kibra is volatile. I think that's a fact. We shouldn't be arguing about it. The only thing that we do is that they shouldn't feel that they've sort of been shortchanged, because when the IBC maybe fails to give whatever the other party demanded, and then it turns out that some people miss out on the voters register
Yep.
and fail to vote, then there's likely to be chaos. Yeah, so the IBC actually should have availed whatever was demanded by the party, because those details are stored in electronic form. And that can be received in a click of a button. It doesn't take a whole century to get that done.
Absolutely.
It's volatile, that's a fact.
Thank you.
And every measure should have been taken
Absolutely.
to avoid any reaction after the elections.
Absolutely.
Asante, Paul.
Yeah.
And that
Okay, thank you.
pressure should have been put on the IBC, even from internal ministry and so on. It's
From the very beginning, well,
Eric, the question you raised has been responded to. I have just received a tweet from that very gentleman.
whether,
Yes,
whether
yes.
he's a response.
He is
Who is
responded.
he? We need to bring him into the studio.
And it was a message that was written to him in Kiswahili.
Uh-oh.
And his name is Moses. He has shown us that he says, naomba kujulisha nitang'ang'ania kiti cha MP wa Kibra katika uchaguzi mdogo ujao. Naomba kura yako na kutakia weekend njema.
Right.
So you can't ask for someone's vote unless they are a voter, can you?
Karibu Betin. So, where else could he have received this guy's details? Very many other places in Kibra.
Yes.
Very many other places in Kibra.
Not only
It's
that.
not just the IBC.
No.
No, what I'm trying just trying
But
to
I agree
respond
with
to
you,
the guy.
Eric.
Yes.
I do agree with you. I do agree with you. My assertion is this. When you raise the bar on and the believability factor, the mistrust factor, then even when there's nothing wrong, people will focus and look for the wrong, even when it doesn't exist. Now, IBC, as I said, have done an excellent job of ensuring that people mistrust them more than they trust them.
IBC has not done an excellent job. Politicians have done an excellent job at making sure that IBC is always being mistrusted, so that they can use that to always
So
dispute election
they
results.
play no role in this whatsoever.
What,
They're-
IBC?
Yes, they play
IBC.
no role in this whatsoever. They're sitting there allowing themselves to be
IBC are
manipulated
weakened.
as a tool to show the people that, it's the politicians and not they themselves. They're squeaky clean when it comes to the entire process.
IBC
Is that
are
your
weakened.
assertion? Is that what you're trying to
Yes,
say?
IBC are weak.
Okay,
in
if
very
that
many
were the
cases when it
case-
comes to the public
if
front.
that were the case and they were very interested in how their image is seen or perceived by the voters who put their trust in them as an institution, they have had numerous opportunities to shake off that image, and still they have not. If they're independent and they don't have any fault when it comes to this, and they want to shake off that image, they do not do it with the very many opportunities that are presented to them to shake it off. One
it's
like
right
this
there.
being a clear example.
Consider this, Ndu. Between the last election of 20 October 26th, 2017, right, and this particular by-election, we have not had any politicians making noise about IEBC. It's been quiet, right? until we have an election, when then politicians come and they start casting aspersion against the IEBC, the electoral body. Between that period, they don't have a problem.
But Eric,
IEBC is doing its job, right? Now we've started to talk about IEBC coming to the boundaries review.
But
you will
when
see
do
what
you
happens
see?
in the
But
boundary
when do
review
you
next
see
year.
the role of IEBC
Other
being
than
played out other than during an
elections.
election?
Yes.
During the entire
Isn't that
process.
when their job is being shown?
IEBC's job. Now let me educate you.
They're not visible.
Let me educate you now. Let me educate you. So IEBC does not close its offices at any point. You see
No,
the
but
issue
in terms of
voter
interacting,
registration.
yes, interacting with
voter
the public.
registration. Voter registration continues throughout. Who registered voters? IEBC. It actually has voter registration centers open. You can
Yes,
go
but
and
let's
verify.
also be pragmatic
As
about
voters,
it. You're
you
speaking
go
very
and
theoretically.
verify.
We know that
Politicians-
IEBC
when
only gets
politicians
into the limelight during elections, or now with boundaries and so on coming up. Generally speaking, you don't hear of the IEBC unless there's elections.
And you
Let's
don't need
be
to.
honest. And you don't need to, absolutely.
And the general public has no problem with the
But what
IEBC
you-
until politicians start bringing up issues with the IEBC.
During elections, because we don't hear of them at all anyway before that.
What else would they be doing?
I want to discuss the impact or the implications of this on Raila, or what does it suggest? Is Raila threatened? Does he seem shook that his party is running to the courts already? Is this sort of him predicting that he might not do so well?
Let me give you my perspective on it. It is a fair question if it was asked without a certain background. Remember, this is the same Raila that people who represent political parties opposed to him have used this narrative and amplified it to present him as a perennial complainer. All right? So it's a narrative.
It's also the truth to a certain
No, it
extent.
isn't.
He has
If it was the
complained.
truth then, this is something that appeared in the New York Times. I've said it before and I'm repeating it in the Washington Post. It was a headline unheard of. And this narrative appeared. We then went to court. The New York Times and the Washington Post had to retract. They retracted it. And what happened? The people who were in charge of that particular article, who represented these two well-known newspapers, lost their jobs. So much for the narrative being true.
Just because somebody lost their job doesn't. No, listen. Does he complain? Does he not? Perennial complainer? Does
I think it's
ODM?
subjective.
Does ODM complain? Is ODM complaining now?
Allow me to ask a very simple
Did
question.
ODM complain the last time? Come on.
If you take a matter to court, are you complaining or are you addressing an
Both.
illegality or something that you feel?
What are you when you
It
go to
can be
court?
viewed-
You're a complainant.
Now, why I use the word narrative is because it is the phrasing of something that has taken place to paint a certain light or to paint an individual in a certain light. So it's not that he has any legitimacy, but he's a complainer and he will make noise anyway.
So you agree with me that when narratives are actually
No,
constructed,
that is the narrative that is
when
being
narratives-
spun.
No.
when narratives
I
are
beg to
constructed,
differ,
like this one
because
for
he
IEBC.
wasn't complaining in the constituencies that he had won or the counties that he had won. He was
See,
only complaining.
again, the
Do you
word-
remember
the
even
word
in 2017, he was only
But let
complaining
me
as a
ask the
complainant
question.
or as an individual
Jerry,
in the,
as a
in the elections
proponent
that
of
he
the
lost.
propaganda, now I'm bringing this discussion to a different level.
As a what of the propaganda?
The
sir?
propaganda, as one of the proponents
Who?
of this sort of propaganda,
Who?
the complainant.
Oh, not
Yes,
me. Okay,
yes.
Why are you jittery? What's wrong? Why are you jittery?
You see, it's a narrative, and that sort of narrative falls in the realm of what you call propaganda. Okay? The phrasing of it. Why would I complain in a constituency where I've won? What am I complaining about? That I
If
won
the
too
process wasn't free and fair and you won, you should still complain.
No.
If you're being yes.
The process.
So now you're just a complainer when you lose. But this brings to
Carry on with the narrative.
No, this brings to fore my point.
You're actually
Is he
furthering
starting
my-
to
my- my
complain?
view
No,
completely.
hold on.
Yes,
Is he
carry on.
starting to complain because he can
Because-
foresee a loss?
Look.
Because he doesn't complain when he doesn't lose.
Are we also casting aspersion against IEBC with the same reason? We perennial.
No.
IEBC is perennially being considered, being painted in a certain way, and that's what I'm saying.
But they're not helping the image look
And then
different.
either way,
Raila
they're
does
not.
Raila does not
Either-
help the image by
either
going to
way-
court this particular time to complain. Is he
absolutely.
helping the
Either
image?
way-
No, he's not. If we can
First of
take
all,
that argument to
look
the
at the
logical
phrasing
conclusion,
of the argument. ODM takes the issue to court. It's Raila who has taken the issue to court.
he's a party leader.
He's a
What
It
do you
doesn't
mean?
matter.
Come on.
It
ODM
doesn't
is
matter.
Raila. If
He
Raila
didn't-
moved to another party, everybody would follow.
He
ODM is
didn't-
Raila. It's not
he
an
didn't
ideology.
Take the matter to court as Raila. the party.
You can use the same argument. You can use the same argument that Jubilee entertains guests. Entertains guests at Karen for McDonald Mariga. You could then say, if the argument is the same, Eric, then you could then say Uhuru Kenyatta entertains guests in Kibra.
Take it further. Uhuru Kenyatta threatened the judiciary and is now living out his threats.
Exactly. If you're going to say that because the party, if you're going to say that because the party said a certain way, you're basically saying it is the individual at the leadership of the party whose thoughts then are being lived out, then you can apply that anywhere across the board.
Do you know who's going to come out on top of this when all's said and done? And at the end of the day, what's going to happen is that the DP will come out a winner either way, whether he actually wins, the candidate he's fielded actually wins or not. Because what's happened is he's managed to shake Raila in his home turf, which is a very powerful statement
Raila has
politically.
played his 2022 card as well. Just with this one, he has actually shown this is how I'm going to, without Ruto making a move. So now Ruto can just
Ruto
react.
did make a move in bringing Mariga.
He pushed,
but he didn't
Raila
bring any possible allies into the arena. That was very interesting.
The 2022 game now, Ruto can just look and see, all right, so Ukambani, he's got these guys, he's got these guys, so this is how I'm going to play out my game.
Knew.
You know, you are furthering an argument that there's an equal competition here when actually none exists.
How do you mean?
There's no competition.
Yes, there's none. You are talking about losing as though that would matter to ODM or the person of Raila Odinga. I've told you this before. This is someone who the so-called political losses have not made him weaker, they've made him stronger. So but how on earth is this going to suddenly affect him?
The terrain, political terrain has been very different. If we look
what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Look, he lost. They lost Langata, isn't it?
No, listen.
How did that change anything?
Made him stronger?
He commanded a greater proportion of the country, or the greater following, even after those incidents.
No, there is a change in the way we're voting, and there's an attempt by Ruto, of course, to introduce a class system of voting.
What is this change that we have in our voting?
We might be moving from a tribal perspective, so you don't vote for your tribesmen, to trying to oust these dynasties.
Jerry,
there's a lot of different narratives at play.
The bulk of our voting,
and when you speak to people, they're talking like this now.
The bulk of our voting is in the rural areas where people come from. The bulk. People will still vote for their people, not because they are tribal, but it's because the people they're voting in happen to come from the place they do. So it isn't tribal. And so long as that exists...
No, you will have people trying to remove dynasties. That's a new addition to the equation in terms of the dynamics.
You will have people trying to remove dynasties.
This rhetoric is gaining traction. You speak to people and you hear them talk about this. We have callers who call in and say, actually, those are beneficiaries from the colonial times. We want somebody new. That is in keeping with what the DP wants as a narrative.
It's been in the public domain forever.
Yes, but the dominant discourse has been that of tribes. What's dominated our perspective has been that of tribes. Could it be changing to that of wealth and class?
The Kibra by-election is ongoing. What we are seeing, reports we are receiving from the ground is that we've got low voter turnout. However, the process is going on smoothly. We are seeing leaders from across the political divide actually going there and seeing how the process is ongoing. We haven't heard many complaints so far. What we are seeing basically is people are saying that the exercise is off to a smooth start, low voter turnout, but it's peaceful. So if you're a Kibra voter and you intended to go and vote, please go and participate in this particular exercise. It is 9:30. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Good morning.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
So it's been said that the government is deliberately causing traffic on Mombasa Road lately to force us to accept that is the way it's going to be and accept the expressway buildup. Good Lord, that's what's happening on Mombasa Road today. It's 2 hours of traffic and nothing is actually moving. Wow, the government is blamed for everything, unfortunately. Limuru Road, we've looked at what was a bus. It's a little bit more than just a breakdown. It's total breakdown. And on Limuru Road, nobody can move just because of this no go. Okay, seriously, if ever we said it today, literally Wahala Day. We ain't going nowhere, as it is said. More Kenyatta Avenue, getting into the city center, is actually chock-a-blocked for some reason. Nobody can get in or out, and it's not moving, and that is causing an overflow of traffic all the way to Valley Road, coming off of that side, leaning on into Moy Avenue. Okay, so I thought I'd have better news, but unfortunately I don't. It's everywhere. It's traffic. The only way that you have is the service lanes on Thika Superhighway are moving slowly if you want to see what it's like when traffic is non-existent. 0719-012-600 is the number to call. You have about a half an hour to let us know what it looks like.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
28 minutes to 10 o'clock. Good morning and thank you very much for choosing the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. My name is Eric Latif. We have CT Muga and Jerry Thorne Nduoko in the studio. Broadcasting in Nairobi on 94.4. We're in Mombasa, 87.9. 102.5 in Kisumu, 96.0 in Nakuru, 96.7 in Eldoret, 90.9 in Nyeri, and 97.7 in Malindi. Also, you can post your comments on all the conversations via our Facebook page, that is Spice FM KE, and via the Twitter hashtag The Situation Room. Our Twitter handle, please follow us, is Spice FM KE. So let's talk about the Big Four agenda. And we keep forgetting one of them, right? So this time, let's try not to. So because we have four of us, let's do the four.
Housing.
Universal health care.
Industrialization.
Manufacturing, that's what it is.
Industrialization and manufacturing is the same thing.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's
So what's the
manufacturing.
fourth one?
The fourth one is affordable housing.
Oh, yeah.
We got them
I
right
said
today,
housing.
right?
I started with housing.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. Go.
You said housing?
Agriculture.
Food security.
There you go.
Food security is the fourth. So let's talk about universal healthcare then this morning. So yesterday, the Cabinet Secretary for Health, Madam Cecily Marire, not Marire, sorry,
Karaoke.
Cecily Karaoke, was at a meeting. Yes, Cecily Karaoke.
He'll tell you later.
Was at a meeting. Was at a meeting with the Kenya Editors Guild in Nairobi, and where she was talking about the progress of the universal healthcare program among the Big Four. And of course, the UHC is strictly straight under in her docket. So she was saying, well, we've done a lot, and what was informing the government's reasoning on provision of universal healthcare is she was saying, well, it has a lot of impact on the community. When people have access to universal health, then to healthcare facilities and health services, then we actually have a better nation. And of course, she talked about the four counties where this has been piloted so far. The four counties are Nyeri, Kisumu, Machakos, and what's the fourth one, Ndu? Isiolo. Those are the four counties where this is actually going on as a pilot. And she says, we have seen tremendous results coming out of the pilot project. And let me just let you know what she said. She said, we've seen increased access to health facilities with a record increase in outpatient and inpatient visitors ranging from 20 to 50%, up to 50% increase in people seeking inpatient and outpatient services. This means that poor and vulnerable groups who were previously unable to access health services are now able to. Healthcare is now affordable for them. Improved health-seeking behavior. So from all the four pilot counties, many Kenyans have accessed health services. And then the premise on a primary healthcare approach, the pilot exercise has reaffirmed what global evidence has always alluded to, that investment in primary healthcare are able to meet at least 80% of the burden of diseases in our communities.
Sorry, basically, say that again. Has relieved.
Yes,
or has given the promise to relieve.
Is able to.
Okay.
Yeah, investment in primary healthcare is able to relieve at least 80% of the population of our burden of disease burden. So she's saying, from what we have so far in the pilot, we have very, very good results. And of course, the first one was that now people have access because it's affordable. They can go, and because they know they don't need to pay, they are therefore seeking services. The second one is because we have opened up more centers across the country in these counties, because we've opened up more centers, people are now therefore have a behavior of seeking the services. And the third one is if we invest in those primary health services, the primary health care, this is clinics and dispensaries going all the way up, we are going to actually be able to deal with our disease burden. The jury is out now. Do you feel that this is the case? especially when it comes to the rollout of this particular project, the Universal Healthcare. One of the things, of course, is investment. This project was rolled out, of course, and immediately the president declared it in December 2017 during the Jamhuri Day celebrations. So the following day, the government began the project. They went and rolled out the Universal Healthcare pilot in the 4 counties. And of course, budget has now been allocated properly in this financial year. So in that first financial year, which is the 2017-2018, the project was launched halfway through the project, through the financial year. Of course, there was no money that was going to be dedicated into it immediately. So the actual time that the money is following this particular function is this financial year. But we are already talking about progress. We're talking about, we've seen results, tremendous results. Is the government just playing up what the government does, always saying, well, yes, things are working. We are going very well, but the situation on the ground is different?
Well, the performance communication could do with some trumping up. We've always said that, government is criticized heavily and they're always firefighting, but they don't tell us enough of what they do. So here's an opportunity where they're telling us what they do, and maybe we need to embrace that. My sort of contention here is, why would we need a pilot project to roll out universal healthcare? I mean, this is something everybody needs, every county needs. Are we looking to see whether it would work or not? Because it's been decided, that it would work. It's a human right, a social right, of course, so progressive as opposed to it has to be instant. So it's the idea of certain counties having this whilst others don't. If people are suffering from health-related issues.
The nature of piloting is precisely that.
What's that?
If you roll it out to everyone, you're not piloting, you're implementing.
Yes, why not just implement?
No.
Why do we need to pilot? What do we need to understand?
Because
we've understood that universal
we
healthcare
actually
is needed.
don't.
We've seen it in other countries.
We don't. That is other countries. You pilot it so that you get information that would be pertinent to your situation, so that the actual implementation is informed.
It's tailored on.
It's informed.
Fine-tuned to your needs and
informed.
so on.
I think they actually did their homework in this case when they were looking at maybe counties that would be more vulnerable when it came to particular diseases that they had seen play out over time. So historically, they knew that these particular counties were more vulnerable, and they said, okay, if we're going to practice or if we're going to implement universal healthcare across the country, let's see if it will work in these counties that were quite heavy when it came to the needs that people had medically. But I think it was quite interesting that she was addressing the Kenya Editors Guild at this point, because of the fact that these are the individuals who will basically take the story back to newspapers, to media across the country, and then be able to then inject this information and spread it out in terms of communication, whereby the successes or the milestones that have been crossed in these pilot areas then would be shared on a greater level. And I think we see the direct injection of such information out, and I don't think that, in terms of sharing this information, she did it to a crowd that, would kind of not give out that information. But I think that was
but also not
peculiar
just
in the sense in which she did.
Not just disseminating the information, but further scrutinizing it in terms of, checking how true what she said is. So I think it was a good platform to make those statements.
Of course, she picked a very good platform to go and tell the editors, this is what we are doing, this is what we are doing. But just as usual, as the government does, they her speech, where I've read those 3 points, this is what she was saying. We have seen an increase in, she has not said, tabulated. For instance, in Machakos, this number of people were not accessing health services, but now this number of people are. This is a platform where she should have.
Facts and
this
figures.
Is a platform where, these are the editors. What do editors deal with on a daily basis?
She's going to hand them more information.
But she talked about improvement. She talked about raising the profile. She was quite vague, and she said, exactly, it was grey. We have created better access to.
Is there a report from which she was sort of surmising these findings and?
That's what she said.
This is what she was telling the editors.
She said there's a report.
The finding,
No, she was basically saying.
She was reporting to them.
This is the report.
Yes, she was reporting to them.
No, come on, guys.
No,
hold on.
She was reporting to them whether or not
what
she
is
gave
the purpose of this pilot project if there's no report?
Like, were there handouts? Was she launching a report?
No, she doesn't have to hand them out. But is there a report that has come back from these pilots, from which maybe she's just surmising and paraphrasing and saying, instead of saying, we've now treated 20% more cases of malaria than previously, she's saying there's been an improvement. Is there a report from these pilots? They must be.
Well, of course, in a project of this case, of course, there must be M&E. So there is monitoring and evaluation, and there's regular reports.
So
but
maybe
is there a final report?
she packaged, her utterances yesterday and her speech for public consumption, so that these guys go and they'll be given a report thereafter for them to scrutinize. Maybe she wanted the speech to be more flowery and more persuasive and sort of interesting, as opposed to starting, giving the nitty gritty and the different.
But also I think there was an element of public relations that was being played out here, because when she completed all of this, or at her completion of what it is that she was saying, again to the Editors Guild that she was talking to, she now said, "Let us join hands together to work together." And obviously, this was sharing.
Criticize me.
Exactly, sharing information as per how we have been able to increase access. Again, using those ambiguous words to then say, "Let us work together." So you then go ye and spread the gospel in terms of, we've actually done a good job, so get it out there.
Well, if she's trying to sort of get the media on her side, she's being very blatant about it, and then you start to wonder, why do you not want to be open to scrutiny by the media? So you can raise suspicions there. But I'm sure, this conversation she was having with the Editors Guild, I think it was purposed or packaged for the sake of a conversation, but it's off the back of a report. I'm sure there's a report with the facts and statistics, Eric, that you say you have liked,
or at least one is coming, maybe.
And that's what I'm saying. You have an opportunity.
Maybe they're about to launch.
Yes, maybe a report is about to be launched.
A report is about to be launched, and what she doesn't want
is to give
criticism.
So that when the report
actually
comes out, and you received it,
be
one that I've already told you.
She's on the good side with the
that you guys,
this is where
good.
It's coming from.
We're working well and saying this is what we need, we hope to do. Look, what I'd have expected the CS to do, sitting at an Editors Guild meeting, and what other people who sit and who come to address the Editors Guild meetings usually do, is you come up with information that is actually substantial.
That they can take back and then...
Eric, you're in media, so you sort of take for granted that people understand what an Editors Guild is. Perhaps you could tell us.
So the Editors Guild is this body of news editors from across all media houses, all right? So you've got, for example, the Standard Group, all the editors in the Standard Group, and Nation
Across
Media Group, across platforms.
Right.
They come together and they formed a guild. It's basically an association of news editors. And why it was formed among the things that it likes to do is to ensure that we have, as editors, we have a very good way of dealing with people who are news sources, and also we have a very good way of dealing with issues that affect, independence of the media and journalism, and promoting positive journalism and independence of the media. All right.
So a union almost.
Yes, sort of a union. It's like an association.
Right.
So when people come in to speak to the this is one platform where you actually have the media
in one room at the same time.
But the decision makers of the media houses.
Not just exactly.
Yes,
not
decision
just the
makers
media.
of what is going to be
actually
played
the
out.
decision makers of the stories that go out.
They're the ones who say yes or no.
So
and
you feel it was a wasted opportunity?
Completely wasted opportunity, because what she should have done is completely come out and said, this is what we have seen. Even present what do you call a temporary report, right? An interim report, and say, this is what we have seen so far.
I'm sure the report is about to be launched.
But you see, what she's done is that she has primed people.
She's just priming us and saying what we have seen, What she's saying here is not different from what the president has been saying in his speeches. What does what is the purpose of UHC why are we making it one of the big four? Because we know that people are going to have access to better healthcare services. You're going to have more people going to seek health treatment in health facilities.
So her comms team is in trouble, basically. That was a crap job, you're saying. That's your point today.
Almost to the point where I'm saying she actually does not have a lot of information.
Oh, crap.
And that's why she's not sharing that lot of information. This is just a PR
know what the situation is on the
ground. Oh, she doesn't
have a feel of what the information really is.
There is no report from these pilot projects?
There is a report.
So she has information?
Yes.
They do have information.
And
what's the
it's
problem?
not rosy.
Oh, the information is not good.
It's not.
All right. So the universal healthcare isn't working.
My speculation.
Oh, you also have a crystal ball.
My speculation.
Crystal ball
2.0. We have rolled out universal healthcare in these 4 counties. We have seen what it's doing, right? We'd be able to actually tell from Machakos County, this number of people have now have access. Machakos city. This number of people have access to these health services, or X number of health facilities were not working before we rolled out, but now they're working. We've refurbished them. We've created new ones.
There has to be some kind of comparative analysis that you give.
Eric,
when this new initiative
the reason why I'm
been
bringing Makueni into the discussion, it may not be one of the 4 counties that were piloting it, but they've actually put it into practice. This universal healthcare that people are talking about, every county in this country is going to Makueni to benchmark, as they say.
So Makueni has it, but not as part of the pilot.
No.
Not part of the pilot.
This is why I was asking, why are we having to do a pilot? If people are suffering from health issues, why are we sitting back doing a pilot to say, well, let's see if it works? Surely even the pilot as it is much better than not having any healthcare system.
Should pilot it across the country.
Well, Makueni is
won't be
doing
a
it.
pilot
Just
then. It will be a
implement.
It's an
Just
implementation
implement.
strategy.
You don't need to pilot something that is going to help everybody. I don't think. Well, Makueni is doing it, and they're doing it very well without having relied on any information from the pilot.
But they have a unique leadership.
For something of this nature, you do not need to pilot. If something is life-saving, why are we piloting it while people are dying?
Okay, then why do we have research when we know that people die from diseases? Why then do we go into the bother? We know
You still
mosquitoes
have
exist.
to go testing,
we know
trying,
that
testing and trying.
when they bite, you get malaria. Why do we keep having researches on malaria? Why? And we already know that mosquitoes cause malaria. Why?
Yeah, but at least you've told people use mosquito nets. You haven't said don't use them. We're going to be trying them out here to see the reduction in cases of malaria, knowing full well that it works. So give everybody the mosquito nets, and then you can fine tune and tweak those mosquito nets to maybe resist certain. I don't know if mosquitoes can eat through.
From a layman's perspective, what you're saying is entirely true.
And I'm a layman in this instance,
but
with regards to universal health care.
No, it's not universal health care. Anything that is has far-reaching consequences like universal health care, you cannot afford to miss it. You cannot afford to implement something and you're not sure it will work.
But given that there's nothing else, listen,
I'm
not saying we
have
don't
a
come back
healthcare system. What do you mean nothing else?
Given that
hospitals
no,
and
but
health centers,
it affects people financially, and what this is supposed to do is remove the financial hardship and ensure everybody has access. So why are we keeping access away from people? I mean, this is life and death we're talking about. Whilst we try this pilot thing and see what information we can gather, which it seems from what Eric is saying, there's been nothing, and the CS has no information to give back.
This is what it
this
could
is a
be.
matter of life and death. Why are we piloting
this? This is what it could be as regards the CS statements yesterday to the Guild. In this sense, it could be that, what is coming in the report
ain't good.
Y'all really don't want to hear what is happening. So what I'm saying, please, before it actually comes, let's work together. So even if what you get in terms of statistics is not palatable, help me understand that even as we pass this milestone, we're getting to the place where things are going to be all right. But we're going to get it right.
What's wrong with having bad statistics? Isn't that the information we're looking for? So
this is what I'm saying.
As Tell us how when we implement it.
There's nothing like bad statistics.
Right.
It's just statistics.
Absolutely. So why are we trying to court the media to ensure that they paint us in a good light?
That is the allegation. That is Eric's crystal ball telling him that he doesn't have
in
that
media. Are you in
information.
the media's guild, in the editors guild?
I did not attend yesterday's meeting.
But are you in the guild?
Yes, I have seen.
Are you in the KEG?
KAG, yes, the kind of
KEG, keg.
The keg.
Keg, isn't that a drink?
It's a thing that holds drinks.
Oh, right.
Got it.
It's not a drink.
Okay.
Yep. The Kenya. So in conclusion to her speech, this is what she was saying. We have the government has jointly the national and county governments have jointly defined key UHC program interventions. Our focus will be on primary health care. A strong referral system shall ensure reduced overcrowding. Recognizing of the crucial role of the multi-sectoral collaboration, the UHC program shall include strengthened engagement with line ministries. Key institutional reforms like NHIF and KEMSA shall ensure improved service delivery. Now, we are not talking about...
It's a lot of information she
shall. This is what we guys, we have come together and we know this is what we are going to do. KEMSA and NHIF shall do ABCD. You should be telling us in these 4 counties
it is happening now.
To do it.
Yes.
No,
this
not
is
happening.
No. When someone lays out the groundwork for you to tell you these are the issues by which you will judge the work that we do and the success of it. So we plan this and we plan this and we hope to achieve this. It's important. You have to say that. You have to explain what it is you want to do and what you hope to achieve. It's important because if you don't, how on earth are you going to know that you've achieved?
Premised your criticism.
It's important, CT, at the point when you are launching. You remember when this pilot was launched?
Not necessarily.
When it was launched, this is what we intend to do. So we intend to basically use KEMSA, NHIF. We intend to work together with these county governments. So we are piloting. This is why we are piloting with these 4 county governments. We hope to achieve these objectives.
What was the objective of her meeting? Was she giving you a report on the pilot? Because if that wasn't the case, then you're premising your criticism completely wrong. was she coming to tell you how the pilot has worked out? You as the Editors Guild, was she coming to report on the results and the information gathered from the pilot? Was that the desired objective?
It was an
update on what has
on
been happening so far.
What was the name of that meeting? What was the agenda on that meeting?
It's a luncheon to note with the Editors Guild. And
luncheon with Editors Guild.
Yes, and she said, it gives me great pleasure to address the Kenya Editors Guild Press Club luncheon on universal health coverage. Keeping the promise.
So it's a luncheon in the first instance. So you wanted to give you graphs and statistics whilst you're sat having lunch?
Yes.
No, let me
in this speech,
can you see that
is this luncheon something that is that they have periodically and they invite speakers?
Yes.
It happens regularly. Yes,
so,
it does.
So she was a speaker who was invited for this particular luncheon.
So she didn't call the Editors Guild.
No.
The Editors Guild called her.
Yes.
Oh, right. You should have said all of this, Eric. Then she's done nothing wrong.
She has come to give an update.
What you're saying is she missed an opportunity to frame her work and her performance better. Maybe she's not trying to because she knows it's good enough. Maybe she knows it's good enough. She doesn't need to sort of court you guys into ensuring that you write a good story for her. So she just gave you an overview and enjoyed whatever she had. Steak and chips.
Jerry, if you have something good, you will not hesitate to say, this is what I have. You cannot keep saying, I've bought a new phone, it's really good.
Maybe she has her communication strategy and they will eventually
give
the report.
Eric, who was she addressing?
The editors.
Yes, and who are these people?
The editors.
These are the gatekeepers of the fourth estate. Okay? She is a public servant. People tread very carefully around such people. You don't go around saying...
What Eric is saying, it was an opportunity to blow her own horn and, shine a little bit and give...
And say what?
Better information.
And say what?
You see, she is the expert here, right? She's the one who runs this ministry. She has this information in her fingertips.
Right.
She knows it.
Right.
Or she should know it.
Right.
What she should come and tell us is not just tell us, we have seen. So, for instance, she talks about why it's important to roll out UHC. And she says, when people access this kind of percentages are able to be served better. Mm-hmm. This is the global statistics. When she comes to what is actually being implemented on the ground, she does not say this particular percentage has actually been served.
Maybe they haven't finished the pilot.
It's ongoing.
It's ongoing.
It's an update.
So maybe
but what we have so far is showing
you guys, you editors, this is it. I don't know why you're upset. Because you guys have invited the minister to come and chat to you about something. She's not out to give a report. She's not due to give a report. You want her as a speaker at your luncheon. And then you're upset that she didn't give you enough information or she didn't use this platform to her advantage. You're upset about that?
She has not given an overview. What she's just gone is just
so you're not happy. What were you expecting? A PowerPoint slideshow during lunch?
No.
Why should she prepare herself for you?
No. What were you expecting?
That's what I'm saying. So we have only four pilot counties. Mm-hmm. Give us the progress report from those 4 counties and tell us. So when you're telling us that now...
Maybe her communication strategy doesn't involve releasing it to you.
What?
Maybe she wants to do this, over a series of a number of weeks.
The reason she accepted to actually come and speak on this is because she knew I'm going to come and give you an update. It's a public. Coming to give the public an update on what is happening. So this is what is happening on the ground. And now she comes and says, so we have seen, more people actually accessing health services. She's completely vague and going round. We have seen more people accessing health services.
Should we try and get her here to give us more information?
We should. Because
will that make you happy, Eric, as a member of the
It's important when you're talking about... Yes, it's important when you're talking about these projects by the government. Government comes out and gives out full information. Don't just come and tell me, you know what? So we have, Kenya has...
Is a luncheon the forum for giving full information?
That's what I'm thinking about. How long was the luncheon?
Not full information. City.
How long was the luncheon?
No. How long was she given to speak?
Absolutely.
She had the time to speak.
Was this after she ate lunch or before? No, as in, I'm trying to see what the setup
immaterial.
was.
It's
completely material.
When she was standing to speak, she didn't have a plate in front of her.
This is not a platform for her to be releasing.
No, it's not a platform. No,
Eric, it's not a platform for her to release information or for her to release reports. This is a conversation she's having with people who've actually invited her. So she has no interest. She's not the one who's looked for you to try and share information, and then you say she fell short of, the information you're expecting. You've called told her. Maybe there's reasons as to why she's withholding some information, because her communication strategy, it's strategic. She's not just going to come out to any platform that invites her. She wants to be strategic about it. Maybe she needs to communicate it to those counties that were being piloted first before she comes to you. There must be a reason. Just because you're disgruntled and upset about the fact that you didn't get what the information you wanted, there's no need to criticize the minister, Eric.
There is all the need to criticize.
Absolutely
the
not. No.
If we're saying, come and give me an update on this and that, Jerry, right?
And she gave you the update.
No, there's no what's the update?
She's told you.
What?
Some of what you were reading.
Improvement and greater access to.
What? And how different is this from what was said when they were launching it in Kisumu last year? Was it last year?
Key successes. So the Ministry of Health has put out a tweet. Key successes of the universal healthcare pilot include increased access to health facilities. We have a record increase in outpatient and inpatient visits ranging from 20 to 50%. And that's Cicely Karaoke herself. So she's used another platform to give that information, because
that is verbatim what she was saying yesterday.
She said that yesterday. So she's given you facts and figures. What's the problem?
That's verbatim. So between 20 and 50% improvement.
Oh, you're saying it's not specific enough?
Yes.
Get out of here.
Increase access to healthcare. They give you the numbers. I mean,
next.
No, it goes on. I don't have it in front of me. I'm
Those are
not
the three,
in her communication.
Those 3 points that you're saying there are exactly the 3 points that I read here. There's an increased improvement from 20 to 50%.
So what you're saying is she only gave you three points.
Okay,
no,
what else should she have told you?
Okay, how many times do you want me to repeat?
Because you haven't been clear. What else should she have told you?
These are lazy journalists who want to be fed information. Go and find out. Go to the ministry, interview them, and ask these questions. Why do you want to be spoon-fed?
And
this is your job as a
forum
journalist.
for giving such a report?
Absolutely not. Not in a
whenever
luncheon.
people want to deliver findings, they have a special function for that purpose.
You have a launch. Because it's done strategically. Why should she be doing this on a national platform? And maybe she's waiting to do it, as I said, per county or per ward that was involved in these pilots, so that people can actually be part of the reporting of the pilot and so on. She must have a strategy, and you're not part of it, Eric. I'm sorry.
You come out to speak. You're not just speaking to the editors. You're actually speaking to the public. You come out and speak to the public because you started this by saying, you take advantage of such institutions because you know that the information that you give them is actually going to go out to the public.
You're a communications
and
expert.
that's why it came out of there. That's why it came out of there. It's going to the public.
Well,
right?
it's clear that obviously there's some hand-holding.
He's using
It's clear
his
that
skills to foster a certain perspective that he holds dear. And we're not going to give him that space.
He's telling the ministry, you guys need a communications expert, and I am here.
No, they actually do have communication experts.
This is how they should have done it. This is what they should have said. So it's a job application.
By the way,
because I've been trying to figure out all this criticism.
Under the Ministry of Health, there are very many departments that deal with various aspects of healthcare. So this is just one of those things that they're dealing with, and they have a process and a procedure.
We will discuss universal healthcare, as a full-length topic, and we'll try and invite actually the CS herself, Cicely Karaoke, to come in and tell us what have you done? Because when you're leaving the studio this morning, the three of you, you'll not be able to be telling me, what's the progress of UHC? Do not know.
I hope the two of you noticed that Eric ensured that I didn't get an opportunity to say what I wanted to say.
You don't know, because we're done. This is the situation. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We come to the end of the show today. The conversation continues. And Jerry, what do you have to say in 2 seconds?
I think it's important we defend women in leadership. And that's what I've done today.
All right. And Ndu?
Well, yes, we continue looking at what is going to unfold, and also be careful about the things that we put out there and what images we try to shake off by not giving necessary information that we should.
Join us again tomorrow morning. Good morning. It's 10 o'clock.